ran. And I thought that was the most interesting thing in the world is to watch them weld it, and the two pieces of metal stuck together and it stayed together. So I started tinkering with it. I bought myself a little Lincoln Tombstone stick welder, and I started burning myself and messing everything up. I had a scrap pile in the garage my wife would complain about. I found it very interesting. So when I got out of the military, me and my wife talked. I was going to go to school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did know I wanted to learn to weld properly because I like doing it. That was my fun time. That was my personal time. I could go to my garage, I could weld, I can do whatever I want. I was in my own world. And so I started out going, and I found Dwight, but I wasn't in a good place in my life because, you know, the military stuff. And Dwight talked to Dwight about it. Dwight said, hey, don't worry about it, I got you. Dwight talked me into it. Started welding with him. I loved it every minute of it, and it was great. Guys would come in, try to offer me jobs. I wasn't really interested in the job. I had in my heart that I wanted to go to Harley school afterwards and get me work on Harleys and stuff. That's not the point. The great part is you can get jobs easy as a welder. I still get offered jobs now. I've been out of school since like 2015, out of welding school. I went to Patrick Henry. Dwight was my instructor. He's a really good instructor, by the way. And still today, I can call Dwight. If I've had a question, I could call Dwight, or I can call these guys. They would answer any of my questions because I went through their program. And that's pretty outstanding in my book. And for the ladies, y'all think that this welding stuff's for the boys. I'm gonna tell you, when I was in school, I always tried to be the best. I wanted to be the best person in the class. I wanted to have the best welds, the best looking welds. I wanted to be the best. I wanted everybody in the classroom to look at my stuff and be like, wow, that's the best. But this girl came in, and she came in and she welded, and she welded so perfect. I could never catch up to her. I don't know what it is. The girl's got to steady her hand and whatnot, so the girls don't think that you can't weld. Girls can weld. And I'm telling you, it's like he said, it's a clean job. You don't get the dirty. I mean, you get a nice clean environment, you just weld and that's it. It's not getting dirty and greasy being underneath an old truck. It's not going out there and being construction in the hot sun all day. It's not all that. It's good. I like welding. I still today, I don't have a job as a welder, but I still weld on everything. I weld on trailers. I built a mulch blowing machine. Me and my buddies built, we built some kind of funky lift system that throws dirt to the higher part of the thing because the skid steer can only lift it so high. So we built a machine, has wheels, we can lift up one side, hook it to the truck, drive it around the farm. It's got a little Coleman engine on it, and it's got a belt that throws it up higher. We made it out of scrap metal. And that's kind of the cool thing about it. That's why I like welding. It's because you can make anything your heart desires. Like, look, some guy welded a horse out of scrap metal. Okay? That's how cool it is. He just made it. He just had a picture in his mind what he wanted to do, and he made it. That's what you can do with welding. Everything in this world is made by welding. And you just gotta think about that. And that's why I like welding. And I'm gonna turn it back over to these guys because I just keep talking about how much I like welding.
A couple more things. I know all of you like to make money, right? Or you hope you're gonna make a lot of money in the future. I can tell you as a welder, it's very rewarding, but it's like anything else. You've got to push it. Like he said, he wanted to be the best in there. So he was self-motivated, and he drove himself to get to the level he was at. I think he could say that for every one of us. When I went through school, I was determined, and I was a little bit older because I'd already been through the military. Most of them in the school was high school, right out of high school. But I was determined I was going to be the best one in there. I was determined I was going to make good money. Had a lot of ups and downs. I like traveling. So you can get a job as a welder and travel around. It's been several years ago, a Japanese company that makes exotic welding equipment, robotic equipment. They've got, you've seen the video, I'm sure, some robotic welders that are made in this company. It's OTC. But they hired me to go do shows for them and demo their equipment. So they flew me all over the United States. I've been to Las Vegas, I don't know what the times, Atlanta, DC, St. Louis, Even went to Canada and on equipment they sold and worked 5 weeks up there training the people how to use those pieces of equipment. The money, there are a lot of people making 30, 40, 50, $60 an hour as a welder. You know, you don't start off at that, but you start off really good. You build yourself up. If you own your own equipment, like these welders that are welding on the pipeline, they travel. That's the negative of it, but most of them have big pull-behind campers, and they'll go set up in wherever the welding's going on. Their family's there, the kids will go to school in that area, and these guys are knocking down over $100 an hour, considerably over that. And you start working overtime, it's even more than that. I personally have been way over that, making money as a welder. The Japanese company used to pay me unreal to do it. You get to see all these different things, and again, I got to use my hands. And you heard these guys talk about it. You know, my hands are much better than my brain. My brain or my mouth gets me in trouble a lot, but my hands usually never let me down, and that's one reason I got into welding and enjoyed it from there. Randy and these guys will get the video showing or the slide showing, and we go from there.
So what we want to try to show you, and we do have pamphlets today that you can take with you. We're going to walk you through the certificates that you can earn at Patrick Henry. So there's 3 certificates. That's from the schools. And once we get you into the program, we'll take you from basic welding to try to earn the certification. That's a national certification. It has nothing to do with these certificates. So we'll talk about that.
Pass them around, we'll explain.
Chad, step in whenever you.
All right, I'll talk some. Here's the next one. All right, so, you know, we've kind of talked about the program a little bit, but really haven't gotten into a lot of the details yet. So we are what we're going to call a certificate program in Virginia. It's roughly around 40 credit hours through our main part of the program. But we have in the last couple of years actually tied an associate's degree in with this. But I think the biggest thing that we offer at the school is actually certifications in welding that don't have Patrick Henry's name on them. They don't have mine or Randy's name on them. This is paperwork that's coming from a testing company that signs off saying that you can weld. Okay, you know, it's not something. A lot of companies look at stuff that schools write, you know, and they wonder if the instructor just liked the person, right? You know, this don't have us, it does not involve us at all. All we do is sign off saying that you took the test per code, and then once it's sent off, it's tested by this testing facility. So this is actually a girl come through Franklin County 4 or 5 years ago, maybe, and one of her certifications that she got. So we actually.
That's my sister-in-law.
Okay. So we offer roughly, most students will get 6 to 7 certifications throughout the program. We have, and they're tied in with AWS, which is international. They're not just a, you know, Virginia company or something like that. If you look up the American Welding Society, they're across every country around that has anything to do with welding. And their name's plastered on the side of everything nowadays. But, you know, most people will come and get these 6 to 7. We have a lot of students that stick around and get 8, 9. And that's what helps you get your jobs when you walk in the door. Every company's still going to test you. That's one thing that's really nice about welding is you can talk. Me and Randy can walk in with a resume a mile long, and they still are going to set us down beside everybody else that apply to make us weld with them. So if you can out-weld me, you get the job ahead of me. Okay. So you'll get these. This is what companies use to get you in the door. If anybody knows anything about applying for a job nowadays, you go through an HR department. They screen your application and they'll pull out, okay, this guy has 6 certifications, let's test him. Okay, and then that's how you get your interview, and then where you actually go in and sit down and weld for the company to see if they're gonna hire you or not.
So it's your ticket to the interview.
I'll let you talk about board stuff.
He wants me to hit this up. So this is the Career Study Certificate. This is the first one. This is where we get basic welding. We build your foundation in the welding department. Introduction to welding. It goes on to say shield and metal art, so we will start you with stick welding. Let you see how to run a puddle across a piece of metal. We're gonna work you up to bonding metal together. We're working on travel speeds and angles and everything. So the first two kind of get you started in it and create the foundation. The Welding 150 is blueprint reading. So just as he said, the certifications get you the interview. What I'm noticing locally is everybody will bring you for an interview. If you do good in the interview, they give you a blueprint reading test. If you do good in the blueprint reading test, they schedule a weld test for the next day. So how important is Weld 150 all of a sudden? It's pretty important. A couple of companies locally are paying $2 and $3 more an hour if you can read a blueprint. And that's welding blueprints. That's how we put stuff together. Can we read a tape measure? Can we pull the right metal off the shelf? Can we cut it? Can we fabricate it? It's all part of blueprint reading. So all of a sudden, Weld 150 is pretty important. It's in your career state certificate. The rest of them go on to different types of processes, like MIG welding. Does anybody know what MIG welding is? Wire welding? I guess that's all we call it now. Wire welding and MIG welding. Flux core is a different kind of wire, but again, all of these is what we would start you in for the first certificate while you get your training. The college has SDV. Everybody will have to take that. To get this certificate, we try to do it the first semester. It's simple college survival. Anything else on this one?
So I will add real quick, you see all these classes with different names. That's what the colleges will tell you, the classes you're signed up for. Kind of ignore that. I think one thing that sets our program apart from a lot of other ones is when you sign up for our program, you're running at a self-paced type deal. It's not when you're signed up for gas metal art, MIG welding. That's the only time you take that, okay? The way we move, we usually have around 20 people in a class. Randy and I walk around with our welding gear on the whole time. I have people that are TIG welding in that class. I have people that are MIG, stick, pipe, testing, their first day, whatever. It's based off of how fast you progress, okay? It's not how fast you want to go, but actually how fast you get through the program. You know, and it really does help benefit the people who show up every day, sit in there and weld every day, and want to get through it. The people who show up to just hang out in the parking lot, talk to their friends, you see that in about the first semester, because they're leaps and bounds away from one another in the program as it goes. And that's how we have such a wide array of how many certifications you get when you leave. Some people get 2 because they hang out in the hallway. And then some people have 9, and that's because they stick their head down and weld the whole time. So it does kind of benefit those people who really want to get this done.
I think Dwight can attest to that. If we brought you in and you moved as a group, some of you would still benefit because you get the cert. A lot of you would be getting close to the cert and we'd be moving you to something else. So you don't get certified. Now we got you in another process. But what Chad said is what's happening in our classes right now. The ones that show up every day, put their helmets on and weld hard, they're pushing their way through all the certifications. And we're there for it. We don't sit in our office and tell you how to weld. We got our gear on and we're in the booth with you. Anytime, we do all the demos for you and everything. Mike can attest to that. All the demos are there. We're gonna keep coming back. Our job is to find your weakness and fix it in each process.
I might add to it, that nobody learns at the same pace. That problem got me in trouble, you know, it was a little bit of a problem. My math maybe more than anything. When I was in English classes and math I was always pretty good at. English, I wasn't so fond of all of the diagrams and all that stuff, but everybody learns at a different pace. But if you're in an English class and all of you are in whatever English class, you're all going to listen and move through at the same time, whereas in the welding, everybody is learning at your own pace. So if basics, if one guy just catches it, moves on, and another guy is struggling, when they get to the end, I've seen them be at the exact same place. Because if we can get the basics down, get you good at the basics, and if it takes a little longer, you know, it's no problem. It's you're going to get it, and then you're going to pick up the rest of it and catch the other guys. So you're learning at your speed.
That kind of takes the instructor, when you first start, everybody's kind of in the same area. 3 months later, the instructor, think about what he's got. Just like Chad said, somebody's TIG welding pipe. Somebody's on a stainless plate. Somebody's over here learning aluminum. Somebody's striking their first arc ever on mild steel. So we run around pretty hard in a class. But the advantage is, the student advantage is you moving at your pace. We're not there to hold you back. This slide here, you got a guy TIG welding pipe. Looks like maybe MIG welding here, I can't tell, but it's an awesome looking photo. But this relates to that first career study certificate. Getting you started. Now the TIG welding pipe is advanced. That's gonna be that guy, that 8th and 9th certification. This student right here, that actually is his 9th. He's got a pipe test set up for industrial pipe welding in Kernersville next week. And it's gonna be good money if we can get him in the door. How was he getting this interview? The 8 or 9 certs, they've already called us, they checked on him. As Mike was saying, the companies come by to the school all the time when they need welders. John Deere was needing 20 not long ago. All Tech only needs 40 right now. So those are the phone calls and the emails we get nonstop.
What did they start them off, John Deere?
Here is at $28.68 an hour. That's
With a
your starting pay.
$2,500 sign-on bonus right now.
$2,500 signing bonus. All Tech is in the mid-20s. But also, when you look at these companies,
There it is. Yes.
We're having technical
This is actually
difficulties here.
a couple of names, and every bit of it's come with water and stainless. It's just high pressure and cuts through. Same thing on this thing right here was cut out, so.
What metal was that?
With other steel like this.
Water is just
It's at a high pressure. They didn't bring it, usually would have bring a piece of heat to take it. And it makes a perfect straight cut. It says take it off and everything, and just use the water. It's a lot higher pressure. It's basically fine, small, thousands of pounds of pressure, and it has fine sand with it.
Now, you said that's aluminum, right?
Yeah.
Now, like say you cut steel with the water and sand, you use more sand for a harder steel or more water, more pressure?
Same thing for both of them. It just, your travel speed is what changes, not the pressure and everything when you're sitting at the water jets. I don't know if you have any of you guys or any of you watch these shows where they make cars, they modify them, build all these rods and everything else, and then they'll make one-off wheels.
Yeah.
A lot of them are made with a machine. A lot of them, they'll cut the raw metal out and then put it in a machine and do everything from there. This, I think that's one of mine from a bunch of years ago. I used to go with this company, OTC, and I would demo their machines for them. These, I welded by hand. It wasn't a robot that welded it, but we'd have all this metal cut, had a booth set up, hit a little button, the curtains come up, and then people could watch me, and then they were trying to sell machines, but I would just do the welding for them, so. You get to do a lot of different things.
some of this aluminum, stainless.
This, and so, it's almost the same, but the difference between the aluminum and stainless, this was stainless welded, TIG welded, is the weight of it. If you came around, the stainless, both look basically the same, right, just shiny and bright. But the stainless is a lot heavier than aluminum. Both of them are welded with TIG weld, or you can MIG weld them, whatever they are.
And a lot of these was out of Chad's class. These smooth ones you were looking at, that's robotic. So the student had to program the robot to do the same weld we would ask you to do in the weld booth. So I'm a little jealous of the robot sometimes. It really puts some pressure on us. In this case, you'd have to have 2 starts and 2 stops programmed into your program. And then this one, Chad had them put in a little pattern. I don't know if it was circle or weave or whatever, but it's designed into the pattern. We're going to slide through some pictures to show you some other stuff that's going on in our shop. And then we'll take some questions if you got.
Yeah, I wanted to, Miss Wheeler. Yes. You guys remember, what was it, three weeks ago when we had a truck what was it, TI, right?
Yeah,
Guess what they have at their shop?
Well,
multiple.
Four. You
He said it depends on the pay, everybody's different, but my husband works for Truck Enterprise in Roanoke, and we were asking him if they had welders at the shop, because I didn't know if they had any in the shop in Roanoke, and he said they do, they have multiple. So that's another opportunity, if you didn't want to be a diesel mechanic or like a truck salesman, you could go and be a welder.
Right.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. So here's a student, TIG welding. This is open butt, so that's it's a gap between the plates. This is a very difficult weld. He's actually trying to backfeed this. We teach him to lay the filler rod in the gap, take the tungsten and walk through it. He's trying a different technique here to get some penetration on the back of the plate. It's very difficult to see that one.
And that's setting him up to get ready to start TIGging pipe, is what he's in the process of doing.
So somebody was talking about, do we have any females in the program? I think we have 10 in the program right now.
That's awesome.
Chloe, doing really well. I think she's working on her 3rd certification now. She's taking machining and everything. So we do have CNC plasma tables. So part of the degree program, the technical studies degree that's after their 3 certificates, we recommend or kind of want you to take a CAD class just to get used to drawing on a computer. We've been running these and cutting out letters, putting out your favorite football team logo, just trying to get you familiar with the cutting table. But if you can draw in CAD, you can build just about anything you want on it. Now, these are small 4x4 tables, and they're perfect for a school. I wish it was this quiet and cozy all the time, but this is before we get fired up. It's just another picture of all the booths. We have 45 welding booths in this new shop. So 2 classes can be run at the same time. And it's just multi-process, people welding everything. Stick, MIG, and TIG, and pipe. One of Chad's students programming a robot. This guy's now working at Deere, and they want 10 more like him. That was the request I had a couple weeks ago. And we have 10 more like Bryson. So he's learning to program and position the robot here. And then this is in the first 8 weeks. The second 8 weeks, like Chad said, he's actually making welds. Again, fabrication. I think in here you're going to see a trailer, a little dolly we built for Marshall Speedway to hold the trophy. This is where we bought a couple of tables like this, and man, they're nice. If you want to put stuff on it and hold it down and clamp it and make sure it's square, these are really nice tables.
You know, we was talking about projects earlier. We got asked by Martinsville Speedway to build, I don't know if any of y'all pay attention to NASCAR, their trophy is a grandfather clock for the race.
Yep.
So we got asked this spring to build a little small trailer that they could actually bolt and mount the trophy to, so that they could roll it out before the race and everything to kind of use as their display without having to tow it around with some kind of handmade trailer. They wanted something that looked a lot more professional, looked better. So we actually built them the cart they use now to pull the trophy around for the race.
So here's in the beginning stages. We were putting it together. Honestly, we were worried the clock's like 6 foot tall. We were worried about our students pulling out there and the clock falling off the trailer and being on national TV. So we had to come up with some stuff, different things to mount it to this trailer, and then everybody walked with it. But it's 6 foot tall, and this is the kind of design they asked for. So
It can be pulled by hand or hooked behind a golf cart. We made, it sets low to the ground, so we ain't gotta worry about turning over, tilt and stuff like that.
there she is.
So they came by and took pictures of it one day with it all mounted, because we figured out a way to mount it so that it looked like it was just sitting on the trailer. But there's actually holes drilled through it, bolts mounted down. It looks like it's just sitting there, but it won't turn over.
I think Dwight knows I'm not gonna have that thing turn over on national TV. So another thing, Chad cut this out on our CNC tables, the P&HCC. So we just cut it out and mounted it right in front of the truck.
So the clock's made out of metal too?
No, it's
No,
wood.
it's
It's an
wood.
actual grandfather clock,
Okay.
yeah.
We had to build a base.
The trophies they give
Yeah.
to the race down there.
We had to set metal in the bottom of the
Yeah,
clock.
Okay.
and
If
then
you
put
look
metal.
right there, you can actually see a piece of the mount that's sitting in there. that we actually drilled through the clock, drilled through the trailer, and put bolts through it, mounted it all down.
Looks better than ratchet straps, huh?
Yeah.
There's our little crew at the track. Guys on the right was with the welding program. Guys on the left with the machining program. The machining guys built the axles and helped us with the wheels. The rest of it was the weld program. Or TIG, I think. Some of these will actually be in our power plant from the beginning. These students are actually learning how to use an iron worker, cutting metal for their classes. Some of it's back in plate for test. But we have a fabrication shop. You get to see a little bit of it here. But we're hoping you learn how to run a shear, a saw, an iron worker, and a press brake. So we have the space to do it. We're letting the students get involved and keeping metal cut for their own class.
Yeah, for years, the program pretty much ran off of donations from people. So nobody donated us an 8-inch piece of material for us to weld. They would donate sheets that had stuff cut out. It could be a 20-foot long stick of pipe. You never knew what was going to show up and be dumped off at the shop for us to use. So we've kind of incorporated now that even with new material, we have our students learn to process that down to what we need. Because you have a lot of companies that are requesting that students understand shears, press brakes, band saws, plasma cutters, and things that are kind of used in our shop, but at one time were used kind of just when we needed it. So now we're trying to incorporate that a little bit more into the program where everybody has their hands on all the machines inside the shop.
Yeah, we had a couple students get some more overhead TIG. And you can see they make welding hoods of all designs and everything. I think that's what I'm saying. It's a student fixing a trailer at our Patrick County shop. We do have a shop up there that teaches night classes for adults, dual enrollment for high school students, same curriculum, same program. And some of these pictures here, the students are on the outside platforms that our students built. So they're getting real world experience with the sun in their hood, the wind blowing. And we actually built these platforms to be, to mimic a scissor lift. So when these students get on them, it constantly moves. So they gotta learn how to weld with the platform they're standing on moving. And we'll put 2 students on it. I don't know if I have that picture in there or not, but the one student's there to help him hold his metal, tack it up, and then this guy's gotta weld it. So it gets aggravating when the guy's helping you and he won't hold still. And you're constantly moving. So it's a real world scenario.
And this is what we was talking about earlier, kind of mimicking more of the on-the-job type stuff. Most of our welding students go to places where they have to run stuff on scissor lifts or lifts or just be out on the edge of something. So that was kind of what that's there to mimic, is them being somewhere not inside of a welding booth where everything's perfect.
This is high school dual enrollment students. We do have virtual welding. This is augmented arc virtual welders. So when they put the hoods on these machines, they literally see a puddle, they see themselves welding metal together, but they're really not welding. So it's virtual welding, and this is basically a computer that grades you on your angle, travel speed, everything that's involved with welding. So you think you're welding, you see the sparks, you hear it welding, but you're really not welding.
But you're gonna be burnt.
You're not gonna get burnt, you can't get hurt here. But it's a real expensive hood that shows everything like you're actually welding.
And it's a good thing for people that's not real sure about welding. If it's something they think they want to get interested in or be involved in, there again, you can wear shorts and flip-flops and go in there and run this and actually kind of see at least a little bit about welding and understand where it's kind of starting at.
I really like this picture because I feel like it gives a different perspective. I feel like a lot of students say, oh, well, that's an old white man's job. But obviously, there's a lot of other women and multicultural students as well.
Well, and this it helps the instructor here. We're not wasting metal. We're giving you the angles, the travel speed, hand-eye coordination. We're working on the exact thing that we do, the first thing we do with you in a welding booth. But yep, you think you're welding, but you're not. So it's grading, the screen behind it is actually grading the welds that he's doing. It's a computer that looks like a weld.
That's it.
One of our females at Patrick County High School doing the outside welding. This is actually the surface buildup that I was mentioning that all of us showed at the beginning of the training. It's used on heavy equipment. And this is her beginning welds here. They were really, really good.
And one thing we're doing here also, you're not using the same machine you use inside the shop. We're actually taking you out. If any of y'all have an idea what Miller Bobcats are, essentially if you see these trucks running up down the road with welders on the back of them, that's kind of the same form of welder we're using, the engine-driven welder. So we actually are using those, where you're actually going out, firing up your welder and having to run it just like you would be if you're running a business or using a welder off your truck or whatever. It's not just plugged in just like every other machine is. There's a little difference there on how they run and how they act.
A good picture of the outside platforms. You can see, even if this guy's leaning on the railing here, he's still moving the platform. So once he's tacked up and he's welding, the other guy has to be still. Once you're 25 foot up in the air on a scissor lift, it's hard to keep it still anyway. So that's why we hooked the floor of that by chains, and it's constantly moving a little bit. Both of them are running portable Miller Bobcats, having to set up the machine, the amperage and everything. Some more TIG welding, guy prepping for TIG pipe. You can see the gap in the plate. Some more platforms are being built. This is our students putting the bases together. This was just the other day in the shop. So they had to square this up, level everything, fire up the MIG machine, set it up, and do the welds.
So that's something with like projects. This is something we easily could have went to a company and said, hey, we need these platforms built. But instead, we actually used our students to do everything. They're building them. So really the group that's going through right now is in the process of building them and laying them out. Whereas later on down the road, everybody's gonna get to weld on them. Didn't have nothing to do with building them, but our students were actually the ones who did build these.
So this one will be like a bucket truck lift. It'll be smaller just for one person. But the floor will move a little bit on it, not as much as the scissor lift. So you can see again, our fabrication table comes in handy when you're gonna put something like that together. This is our grinding section in the new shop. Our students built the metal and of course we ordered the curtains, but they have to put all that together.
Yeah, they built the vice stand for us, they built the curtain rack for us, stuff that we done in class.
Another picture of the outside platforms. You can see the chains hooking to the floor. So you can kind of imagine how it's moving. More cut to metal.
That's it. That's it.
Just wanted you to see some of the stuff inside the shop. So we kind of run through a little bit of everything with you. I guess at this time, if you got questions for any of us, we can take them.
All right, guys.
Not everybody wants.
I know, right?
Yeah,
All right,
go
let's
ahead.
start over here. Oh, somebody
Yeah,
go
one right
ahead.
there.
Thank you, John.
You might answer this, I didn't hear you. How long does the program last?
You know, that's a good question. If we're running 3 sections a day right now, so morning class is like 8 to 12. Middays is like 1 to 5. And we offer night class, it's like 6 to 8:30 at night. So if you're taking morning or midday, you can finish this program in less than 2 years now. You're taking 2 welding classes, and the hours are there. If you're working part-time or whatever, you have to take nights, and you want everything we offer, it's at least 2 years. So we have high school students coming in and jumping in the morning and midday classes, and working on a degree program. If you start working on the degree when you start welding, you'll finish the degree when you finish welding. So we can have all 3 certificates, an associate degree, and again, it's up to you on how many certifications you get. It's a great question. I don't think I covered the time.
Well, they're all different, right?
Yeah.
They're all different.
What gear do you have to supply the students? Just your helmet and gloves, or?
That's a great question. Now we're running a C program with our Henry County students that pays for equipment. if you're not part of seed, financial aid can help you pay for it. So say you take a full load and you have financial aid, state financial aid, you have leftover money from that financial aid, it will buy your gear. And we do have gear in our bookstore now. Dwight and I wanted it for years. We finally got welding gear in the bookstore, and it's really nice gear. If you can work out getting that gear with your aid, financial aid, you're set for the whole time you're with us. You might end up replacing a outside cover lens or something like that. But it is a helmet, a welding hat, a jacket, gloves, the whole 9 yards. It even comes with clamps and everything you need to hold hot dogs.
So like your Pell Grant, more than likely, if it's in the bookstore, we'll pay for it at that point.
Yeah.
Pell
I don't
grants,
think
they have a tobacco fund,
Oh, yeah.
financial aid. There is so many avenues now for pathways to get your school paid for.
Yeah. So the seed grant is like for Patrick County kids, whereas our, what is it, thank you, CCAP for y'all.
Yeah.
But that's for Western only.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at bare minimum, a student just needs helmet, jacket, gloves. If you was paying out of pocket, go to Harbor Freight and spend $150 and you're ready to roll.
Right.
And it's the same with your textbooks, the blueprint reading, the metallurgy, that's all, if you get state financial aid, it's all paid for.
And we have enough programs at the college now with like tobacco fund and everything else and grants, scholarships. Nobody really has to pay for school. I mean, most people, I'd say 70% of everything's funded by somebody else other than the student. You know, it's just a lot of different avenues. They might have to write an essay or whatever the case is, but a lot of it's paid for.
And there's a few going into military, so guess what, when you get out, you got the GI Bill.
Yeah, that's another,
Or better
gosh,
yet.
and there's so many different GI Bills. We have an office that's over, that will work with you and identify what bill you're under. That's another avenue.
But she had a question.
What's the worst injury odds?
Well, mine would be burns in the field, but in our shop, I haven't seen anything bad. We've seen some stuff, put a little aloe plant oil on something or burn cream, but I haven't seen a whole
Ask
lot.
Mr. Deans what he's done.
If you wear the gear properly,
That's good wording.
There you go.
if you wear your gear properly, you'll most likely never receive hardly any injuries at all. Now, if you do stupid stuff, which I have done, I blinded myself one time. I was working on one of these trash containers, and it rotted out down the bottom. I was replacing the bottom piece of metal, and it was just so bright in there, or I couldn't get a see through my shield. So I was trying to do the head nod, and when I was doing it, it was bouncing off the metal, the brand new metal I put on the back, and it was hitting me in there, and it blinded me. And I suggest putting something over the back of your helmet if you're going to do that. But I was blind for about 2 days. The first day I couldn't see nothing. I had to be led around like a blind person. I had to hold my wife's arm and she had to lead me around. The second day I could kind of see, but my eyes were so crusty I couldn't really see. And on the third day I could see. So, I mean, it wasn't like bad, but it was bad. But
It could have been worse.
yeah, it could have been worse. But
I've seen guys cut fingers off with these shears, but, and more than one time. But in every case, someone didn't follow the safety rules. Like a guy cut these fingers right here, but he took a guard off so he could see better and get his hand in. So I was on the back end telling it, I was catching the metal and stacking it up. We had built projects, so we could cut our own metal. And I just told him that he could, that machine wasn't fast enough to outwork me, because I worked at my daddy's sawmill. And he took his guard off during the lunch break so he could see better and shove it through faster. He got his timing with his, because your foot mashes the bar that makes the shear come down. He got his rhythm out, and they sewed two of them back on, and one of them still a little short. But it was his fault. I mean, again, he took the guard off.
Yeah, like they said, a lot of it comes down to doing something you're not supposed to do.
If you follow the safety rules, you wear the proper gear and all of that.
Well, and the gear today is, of course, it always improves like everything else. But like I've been in it over 25 years, and my eyes are still good. Now I have always had to have glasses, but I just went to the doctor. My eyes are changing for a different reason. We're not gonna talk about it. But the welding part, I haven't hurt my eyes at all, and I'm over 25 years in it. And it's usually, he always asks me, you still taking good care of your welding? So if you take care of your equipment, you wear it properly, not too bad.
And when I started in it, you had a lens that, and when you had to drop your helmet and start the arc at the same time. Now, it's all automatic, and that came from the space, aerospace is where they ended up coming up with that.
This one
And
automatically changes when you strike the
You
arc.
strike an arc, so you can kind of see what it's doing. It's like looking through sunglasses, you strike an arc, and it, before you can see that, you never see the brightness of the arc, it automatically turns dark. So you don't have to worry about
It's like what
burning.
if you look at a phone, like a screen or something,
What was that?
like if you look through it, like at a screen or something, like darkens it too.
Well, if
If
you
you
set the
got
sensitivity,
sensitivity,
it has a
yeah.
sensitivity.
Yeah.
So you can wear this and see where you're going. It's I mean, it's a green, kind of a green tint to it, but I could be on a high-rise building and actually see my steps, see where I'm walking. But if I'm welding up there, it's gonna automatically go dark. So
Y'all
this
not
is,
using your phone while you welding?
Well, like any, like if you look at like.
texting while welding, not a good idea.
Just make sure when you weld, it's not on grind mode.
That's a real good point. They have grind mode, weld
I
mode,
think you
everything
got
there.
your question out right there, did you?
Thanks, sir.
Come again, like,
If you record somebody on your phone welding, if you say, I put this helmet on and I'm recording him welding, you'll be able to see it on your phone, but you're not gonna be able to see much because it's just so bright. You can do that. You can watch your screen afterwards when we're done welding. You can watch the screen and see the weld, but you're not gonna see it very good. It's just a big bright ball. That's all you're gonna see on the screen.
You guys were talking about striking an arc. I don't know that they all know what that means.
Striking an
you're
arc.
bringing the welding rods.
I didn't bring you rods.
So if I'm going, if this was a welding rod, and I'm gonna weld this right here, you know, with that helmet, I've got it down, I can see what I'm doing, but if I'm stick welding or stick welding, so I strike the arc to make it start. There's no electricity going on through anything until those two touch. And when they touch, that electrode starts burning at a higher temperature, and it melts the two pieces of metal together, and then it leaves a deposit through there. To strike it, I gotta scratch into it and get the arc
Like
started.
striking a match.
Yeah.
Striking matches what we use when we first start you.
Oh, really?
That's a technique we want you to use, because if you go straight in and touch it,
Yeah,
it
it'll
usually
stick.
sticks.
It's like a magnet.
It's not trying to weld then, it's sticking and you're burning up the electrode.
What's the difference between like a TIG or whip, like, or what are they called?
MIG, TIG, stick.
TIG, stick, what's the difference between all those?
Stick is using an electrode, so I clamp this welding rod, and that's what we refer to as stick welding. So that's manual, it'll go that far, and then I gotta stop, put a new one in, that is about this long.
Like how the mills are?
Somewhat like it. So it uses that up, and then I have to put another one in. MIG welding is a wire spool, and it runs through the machine. I pull a trigger, and it automatically wire comes out. So instead of having to stop and change and put a new stick in, as long as I can sit there and hold myself steady and go with it, ever how long the weld is, that's MIG welding. TIG welding is where I'm holding a torch, and it has a tungsten or electrode in it that doesn't melt up. But it takes the heat from that, melts the metal, and then with this hand, I've got another rod that I'm feeding into that puddle as I'm going along. That's what these were done with.
What's the like, benefit for all of them? What's the benefit?
Stainless steel, you can get bright shiny wheels. It's some processes, if I'm stick welding, I'm going real slow, so I'm injecting a lot of heat in my metal, which makes it warp up. If I'm MIG welding, I can go pretty fast, so I don't warp my metal as bad. TIG welding is, you get a better looking bead. If I'm doing street rides, I work on motorcycles, I build show cars, restore trucks, tractors, and all this stuff now. So if it's something people are gonna look at, and I want them to look at and see the beads, a lot of street rods, they build aluminum stainless parts on there, gas tanks, they want somebody to see it just makes it look a little better.
What do you start with when you get into it?
Stick welding. Right.
Stick welding's the hardest, so that's why they start you with that.
Well, we can get you to maintain the puddles and put metal together and learn this.
And
travel
again,
speed.
it's a slower process, so it's not rushing you as much as if we put you on stick weld or something.
And then you'll see that stuff happen with the MIG and TIG, and you almost correct it yourself. Our students come to us when they're MIG and TIG, and they can tell us what's wrong with their weld, and they're gonna ask us, but they already know because of their state training.
Do you think jewelers use, I mean, they probably solder, but
They
is that
use-
part of what y'all do?
They use a torch like you see your gas welding.
Uh-huh.
That's what they do in the jewelry. Instead of using a steel rod to put into that puddle of melting, they use silver.
We gotta use silver. I need you to fix some stuff.
But it's the same way for like HVAC, when
Yeah, same
they're
thing.
braiding the copper
Oh,
together.
yeah.
Same thing. It just, with the jeweler, it's a lot smaller torch. Keep from melting everything. Anybody else?
Are there any meaning behind that?
All right, let's start over here, Calvin.
You, okay. All right, ask, what are your questions?
Listen to the question.
What is
Well,
gas
what's
welding?
gas welding?
All right.
Gas welding is using a type of gas, acetylene is the most used. It gets real hot. So acetylene gas, it's man-made. It takes, they make it from putting carbon and putting water on it, and you automatically get the gas off of it. So I've got one tank with acetylene in it. The other tank, I have oxygen. The two are mixed together, so if I'm holding this torch, the gas comes out of it and I light it. If you've seen a butane, a cigarette lighter, it's similar, except we add oxygen to it, which makes the degree of heat go way up, and I can take that and melt the metal. It's a real slow process. But now on MIG, some of these other weldings we was talking about, there is other gases in there. There's argon, there's mixtures of gas. So a lot of different processes use some type of inert gas. Inert means it won't burn, it won't, like what I was explaining the first time with oxyacetylene, it's flammable, explosive, and all of this. Inert gas means it won't burn. So what happens, if I'm trying to weld something and air is blowing into this, if I'm MIG welding or TIG welding and air blows in it, it puts impurities in it and my weld won't hold together. So this inert gas, which won't burn, it just shields it so no oxygen can get into the puddle while I'm welding, and then that gives me a nice clean puddle. It's a lot of different gases they use.
Yeah, there's the torch. So here's some of the setups for
Type of
Dr.
welding?
Do what?
Do you have a favorite type of
I
welding?
do. TIG welding aluminum. And it's what got me into welding, because I watched somebody TIG welding and I thought, I was probably making more money than he was, but I thought, that guy's got it easy. He's sitting down, he's clean, I'm dirty, I've been crawling under a big trailer or a big tractor trailer working on it. And I went home and started daydreaming about it. I was partners in a garage in Nashville, Tennessee that we worked on some cars, but mainly on diesel trucks. I worked the night shift, the breakdown, so everything I worked at was out in either a truck stop on the side of the road. I was partners in the garage, I was making really good money, but I saw that guy welding and I kept daydreaming, especially on the side of an interstate, and a tractor trailer goes by and it's pouring down rain. It's like he takes a 50-gallon drum and throws water on it while I'm trying to work on it. And I kept thinking, that guy's got it made. I went back home, told my wife, I'm gonna go back to school again, and I'm gonna take welding this time. I said, if I like it. So 2 weeks into it, came home, told my wife, I'm selling my part of the business I'm in, and I'm going from welding from here on. So I went, my wife thought I was crazy. Still thinks that some. We've been married like 3 years. So this was in 70, early, mid-70s. I'm making $15 an hour, which was huge money. My first welding job paid $3.99 an hour, so my wife was not happy at all. I went through it and got better after that. It's paid a lot more since then.
What about y'all,
I'll probably TIG stainless. I like it. It's a lot, it's clean, it's neat, looks good when you get done.
I like the clean welding, but I did stick with pipe. That's how I made my living for many, many years. So I wasn't very clean.
I like the TIG, but my favorite is TIG, but I do more MIG welding. MIG welding, because it's faster for me. It's faster. I can do a lot more. I don't have to stop so many times. Because the other two, stick and TIG, you have to stop. You got to get filler rods and the rods. Whereas MIG, you just run. You set your machine up, you get going. So if you're building a trailer or something, you just weld, and you don't have to stop ever.
Get done quick and get paid quicker.
That's
What
right.
you used to weld on Horseshoe Cross? What was that?
It was a MIG.
So that's what you wanted.
Yeah, but I like TIG. TIG's better because it's cleaner. Like everybody said so far, TIG's cleaner. You get to sit in a nice little table and you just do your little walk in your cup and you're filling your rods and don't ever get dirty.
Now, I know when you're stick welding, there's different types of metal, but there's also different rods for different kinds of metals too.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, I wish I brought some weld rods with me today, but we'll run you
The
through.
numbers on those welding rods, every welding electrode is what it is, but welding rods got numbers on it. Those numbers tell you everything. It tells you how strong it is. It tells you the chemical makeup, the flux on it. It tells you whether it'll run on AC current, DC current, all of that from the numbers on the electrodes.
And that's where the metallurgy and the blueprint reading come into handy, because that'll tell you what stick to use for what metal that you're using for.
Yeah.
So it'll tell you like you need to use a 60-10 here or whatever, a
Yeah,
70-18. It tells you exactly what rod you need to use and what kind of weld you need to be putting on it.
Yeah, we'll run you through a bunch. We got a big oven and we covered several different number of rods.
Yeah. So, but that's why you gotta take those other classes, because if you just come in and take the welding portion and learn how to weld, you're just a welder. You don't know nothing else. You get told what to do. Or if you take these other classes and you know that, what to do, and you can come and read the blueprint, and then you know what you're doing, so you don't have to be told what to do. You can just do it on your own. That's the better part. That's why you get paid more.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, $20 an hour is a lot of money. I did construction, like building houses. I've done a lot of jobs. I've been in the Army, I've been in it everywhere. But $20, $24 an hour, $30 an hour, that's a lot of money. Especially after 2 years, just taking a class for 2 years and getting a little degree and then getting that kind of money, that's crazy money. You start adding that up by 40 hours, that's a lot of money. And then welding, and I'm gonna tell you this, I haven't actually took a welding job yet, but I have my friends from my class that I went with Dwight. They're getting overtime. That's like as much hours as you want. I had a friend that worked at Freight Car, and all he did, like he'd go in, he'd do his 40 hours, he'd be on 40 hours by Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday was all overtime. That's time and a half. That's a lot of money. That's a good bit of money.
Think about the pipeline too. I got a couple of students that are working at the pipeline and then they're gonna go do this, but they making really good money.
And it's gonna be for a given period of time, so make all the money you can doing that while we're going through. Hopefully they're saving some money, but.
And then there's other opportunities. We all become teachers. When I first got into it, I didn't think about teaching. Chad brought up the CWI, the Certified Weld Inspector. They make really good money and they're inspecting welds. They're learning code books. So there's so many avenues once you become a welder that you can finish with. And now you got so many robots. There's another game that you can change from manually doing it to programming a robot to do your weld.
They didn't have that.
And if you think about inspecting welds, like think of a big building, a lot of them have metal beams, right? So somebody's gotta make sure they're strong enough and structurally sound, and that's kind of where this would come in.
He gets good
If
money.
you remove this ceiling tile, above that is metal that's been welded together.
And talking about inspection and pay and stuff, I think one of the best jobs I ever had and the most money I made, I literally carried a notebook, I had a flashlight and a mirror. So before Miller Brewery shut down and become Purina down in Eden, I was contracted as an inspector down there. Sanitary pipe, thin wall pipe, you don't have to do nothing but look at it. And I made over $100 an hour walking around with a little flashlight and a mirror.
But you had to take the courses and pass a pretty stiff test.
And because that I didn't stop my education is what gave me that opportunity. You know, like they were talking earlier, once we got into welding, it didn't stop. You know, everything progresses, opportunities happen. You know, with welding, being what I'm gonna call a ground level welder, most people don't stay there for 5 years. And then they progress into supervision, inspection, whatever the case may be. And all that comes with more money and more responsibility, but more money is what we all work for.
But y'all two still, like, being teachers, do y'all still do welding jobs?
Some. I used to do a lot of side work, but it's kind of got to where I guess I have a bigger spot now at the college where I'm doing more, spending a lot more time there. And now I have kids, so they take up all my free time. When I started teaching, I was single and had no kids. I worked 24/7. So that's when I was inspecting on the side and doing a lot of other stuff.
I was the same way. All kinds of side work. Just like he's talking about, he's not in a welding job, but he's welding all the time at home. Same way. Now, our program's so big, I got my welders that got their own companies that I give that side work to.
I got former students that are teaching. I was thinking this morning, woke up early and I was thinking about coming up here and having Mike, which is a former student, and then having these guys teaching now. Start counting up, I think I've had 15 or 16 former students that are teaching or have taught out of school or taught in the Navy, taught in the Air Force, taught welding. I kind of look at that as probably my best accomplishment, to know that you taught somebody and then they turn around and do teaching later. I think you've got about 5 minutes.
Well, to kind of end it, Dwight told me, I didn't know how I like teaching. But he told me when it comes full circle, when you've taught somebody how to strike an arc, the very first thing we do, and they finish with all the certs, and then they get that job, and you see them married with kids, with new vehicles, a new home, it's full circle. And that's what keeps me in it. I love it. I get to see, I can tell you stories all day. I know he could. And I've got that same story, so I love what I do.
You make enough money to buy toys, and I like toys, like motorcycles and
So these pamphlets go over everything we touched
show
off
cars
on.
and all this.
Here's our cards.
What's the link of the business?